Hi, welcome to Zero Experience Required. Today we are going to be learning how to make sugar cookies. This is going to be a three-part series. In part one, we're going to learn about how to bake your cookies. In part two, we're going to learn how to make royal icing. And in part three, we're going to be learning how to decorate our sugar cookies using royal icing. I hope you enjoy.
I'm working with my baking assistant today, my 3-year-old, and we are starting off by sifting 4 cups of all-purpose flour. We are using this sifter today to just break up any clumps that might be present in your flour, and it makes your cookies a little bit lighter and fluffier. If you don't have a sifter, you can make your cookies without sifting it. They will be fine. It just kind of changes the texture a little bit, makes them a little bit more fluffy. Now we are going to add nutmeg, salt, baking soda, and baking powder to our flour mixture. We're going to sift that again because particularly the nutmeg can be kind of clumped, and so we want to make sure there aren't any huge pieces by sifting it. And then we'll just stir that all together and mix it up so it's all incorporated. Go ahead and set aside the powder, and then we're going to mix our softened butter with our sugar until it's creamed. Then add your egg, sour cream, and vanilla. You're going to mix that up till it's all incorporated, and then we'll slowly start adding in the flour. Make sure when you add flour, you only put in a little bit and start your mixer out on low so it doesn't spray everywhere and make you look like a ghost. You'll want to make sure that you scrape the bowl periodically just to make sure there's no dried flour parts at the bottom that you didn't reach. You want to make sure it all gets mixed up well. Also, I feel obligated to tell you, you're not supposed to feed children or anybody raw cookie dough, but are you really a great mom if you don't let them lick the spoon? I don't know about that. Put your dough in an airtight container so it can chill overnight.
We let our cookies chill for 24 hours and we're ready to start cutting out our cookie shapes. When rolling out my dough, I like to use a rolling pin that has the measurements written on it so that I know how thick I'm making them and then I have consistent thickness of cookies. I usually try to make them about a 1/4 inch thick, which is a pretty thick cookie. I like them to be a little bit heartier. You can make them thinner if you like. Our recipe makes about 2 dozen cookies that are a 1/4 inch thick. If you make them thinner, you might end up with more cookies. Make sure when you're cutting out the dough that you don't pick a shape that's going to be too intricate because it does kind of expand as it's baking. So if you have too intricate of a cookie cutter, it may not hold its shape as well as you'd like. So get a more generic shaped cookie cutter that doesn't have a lot of details in it, just so that it will look nice when you're finished. Plus, most of your details can come from the frosting when you decorate it. Let's cut out some cookies. Before I start, get your hands covered in a little bit of flour, and then also cover your rolling pin with flour so that the cookie dough doesn't stick to your rolling pin. And then we're gonna roll out our dough that we chilled. This dough is really cold because I let it go a little over 24 hours, so it's kind of hard. So you just gotta work it a little bit to soften it back up. If it starts to stick on your counter, just put some more flour over that spot. The dough is really hard after it gets chilled because it was full of butter that we had softened when we started the recipe. And then after chilling overnight, the butter hardened back up. So you just kind of got to work it a little bit to soften it up and get it ready to knead out. But you do want it really cold If it was soft, if you'd bake the cookies right after you mix the dough, they would run a little bit more because the butter would be so warm already. So you want cold butter to help it hold its shape. So I want to compare two cookie cutters for which one would work better with this kind of sugar dough. And I would say this green one would be better because it's got more definition in the cut-ins for the Christmas tree. This one just has tiny little cut-ins, and when you bake the cookie, it's just gonna lose those definitions. It's just gonna puff up, and so you won't really be able to see the distinction of those individual branches as well as you'd be able to see these ones. It tells you it has a thickness gauge on it. When you're looking at your cookies in the oven, you just want them to be slightly brown on the bottom, not super brown. See how light that color brown is? That's what we're looking for. They do seem a little bit doughy on the top, so they could go just a little bit longer, but they're pretty good. They also will keep baking on the pan once you take it out. Put your cookies in the oven. Bake for about 12 to 14 minutes at 350. You want to leave your cookies on the pan for a few minutes just to get a few extra minutes of cooking time. When you take them off, you're going to want to put them onto a cookie cooling rack and leave them on the rack for a while. You cannot decorate the cookies while they're still warm, or it will melt all the icing and it'll look terrible. So you want to make sure you get to cool them. If you're in a hurry, you need to decorate them quickly, go ahead and put them in the refrigerator or the freezer for a little bit just to cool them down. Thanks for learning how to make cookies with me today. I hope you'll give this recipe a try. It's really great. We'll include a link to the recipe in the comments below.